So a pleasure to be here. I always love coming to the British Library. Isabel, who runs the BIPC here, knows we deliver a monthly workshop here called Startup Saturday, not in this room. We deliver it in a smaller room over in the main library. But we actually do one event per year here called Startup Saturday, which is our biggest one where we kind of fill this space. So I love being at the library because I do think you do a fantastic job for helping startups get going and businesses to keep growing. So a pleasure to be here. So I hope you enjoyed this morning's session. As Yaz said, I guess kind of the point of this afternoon is to dig a little bit deeper into the kind of details of how to grow a company. By very brief background, I started life as an accountant. I've just had a lovely chat with the excellent Barbara Stedman, who we first profiled actually in a book that we brought out in 2010 called Working 5 to 9, How to Start a Business in Your Spare Time. And Barbara was one of our 5 to 9ers. Because she was an accountant at a college by day and she was running her business another gorgeous day at night. And I've literally just seen her for the first time in years. And I'd heard that she'd gone full-time into the business. And I said, how is it? And she literally just said to me, it's so lovely, I don't have to pretend to be an accountant anymore. So very nice to see you literally unleashed. But I did start life as an accountant. I worked for a great accounting firm called Arthur Andersen, which, for those of you that know, I always get giggles in the audience when I say that. So for those of you that do know, Andersen sadly went down in a scandal that it did some misaccounting for a big company called Enron. And I had started with them in the London office, since moved to Leeds and Manchester. I was in Manchester. And I'd left actually in the year 2000, which was at the height of the dot-com boom. And there was a brilliant thing in the year 2000, which we're definitely getting back again actually in 2015 and in 2014, which was there was lots of activity in the media around lots of people starting businesses. So there were lots of people going out raising loads of money and starting incredible dot-com companies. And the media was incredibly positive about this because it was saying, look at all these people, they're going to change industries and they're going to make things so much better. And kind of emboldened by that, I thought, you know, that's what I'm going to do. And what I'd done for Arthur Andersen was set up an inward investment unit. So we were attracting companies from all across the world to invest in the UK. So I thought, right, I'm going to put the inward investment process online. And I left to start a business with a business partner called Techlicate.com. And just a funny thing, which I didn't think I was going to go into this, but it is all very relevant around business growth, is because it was the dot-com time, we wrote a very big, encouraged actually by the senior partner at Anderson's, we wrote a very big business plan and did what everybody did at that stage, which was take it to venture capitalists and say, right, we'd like £3 million, please. We have absolutely no idea how we're going to make that money back. And sure enough, and I never like to say their name, but a very well-established, still going actually, amazingly, venture capitalist said, right, we'll give you the cash. And fortunately, because we instead got customers that kind of bankroll the start of the business, we didn't take the money, we didn't give away equity, we owned the company between two of us 100%. And I think what was brilliant about the dot-com boom was that there was lots of positivity around starting a business. What wasn't so good is some of the business basics went out of the window. So it was too easy to raise cash. People didn't necessarily want to know how you were going to make sales, and that was the dangerous aspect of the dot-com boom. Anyway, we started Techlicate.com. It was started from my spare room in a Manchester apartment. I'm a huge champion of home-based businesses because I think it's great because it keeps your costs low, keeps your commuting low. And 15 months into the company, we got a call, which we actually thought was a hoax call, because it went along the lines of, hello, I'm calling you from a company, and, you know, we should have just Googled it, and then we wouldn't have been so ridiculous and immature in our response. The call was, I'm calling from Tennant Group PLC, and we're growing by acquiring lots of businesses, and we're very interested in your company. And literally, my business partner had picked up the call, and he literally said, Matt, stop being such a silly arse and tell me who you really are. And amazingly, we actually did go on from that call through due diligence, and even, and as I say, I really will get on to growth in a minute, because I'm kind of feel as if I'm taking a trip down memory lane, but even when it got to the point of due diligence, where the FD had said, so Tennant was based in London, they'd said, right, we're going to come up to Manchester and look at your books. And we were a business by then, 15 months in, there were 5 of us working from home offices in London and Manchester. And so me and my business partner were like, okay, we've got this huge FD, he runs this 80 million quid company, he's coming to see us, we're going to have to like get an office and like look proper. And so I don't know if anyone knows Manchester, but there's a huge tower in the middle of Manchester called Portland Tower, which is serviced offices. And so we took just like one room in there and we put up family pictures, we put Technicate materials out on all the tables, and we were like, he's going to think we run the whole of this floor. And sure enough, he came up, looked through the books, and as he left, he said, of course, one of the reasons we're looking to buy you is you've kept the business based at home and you've kept your costs at a very manageable level. So despite your efforts to look professional, sometimes it's just better to tell the truth. So we sold the company, which was an incredible experience because in 2 years, starting, growing, and then selling a business is brilliant because you just get accelerated learning. And I then worked for the company for an 18-month lock-in clause, and on the day I was allowed to leave, started Enterprise Nation. And a big part of Enterprise Nation in terms of why we started life, we've been going for 9 years now, so we started life as the home business website. We were very focused on people starting and growing a business from home. Our first book was called Spare Room Startup, How to Start a Business from Home. But over the years, a number of the members in our community have outgrown the home office environment. So we are now the UK's most active small business network. And very briefly, what we do is we provide a daily blog. We still publish lots of books, ebooks and kits. In fact, this year, one of our books to be published is called Going for Growth, How to Grow a Business on a Budget. Because interestingly, what we're seeing, and these are the steps I'll go through, is we're seeing modern businesses today grow by very modern growth, actually, through franchising, through productizing what they do, through outsourcing and subcontracting, as opposed to just hiring people. So I think previously, if you wanted to grow a company, what you would do is just say, right, let's hire 25 people, let's move into a bigger office, hopefully the sales are coming in, but we're actually seeing some real modern stories of growth, and I'll relate to those. So we have a blog, we publish lots of books, we do lots and lots of events. So we've got 70 plus events we'll run in London this year and lots of events outside of the city as well. And we campaign on behalf of small businesses because this current government has done lots of good things for small businesses, but there is always more to be done. So Monday night's debate was a case of that, and we're campaigning on a couple of other issues at the moment. So that is kind of Enterprise Nation in a nutshell, but with like 10, 15 minutes left to go, let me hopefully give some tips around, as I say, kind of what we're seeing in terms of how businesses are growing. And I may be preaching to the converted, actually, with this audience of existing business owners, but point one in terms of know your niche. And as I say, I'll kind of be really brief on this because you're all running a business, so hopefully you understand the benefit of this, which is the more that you know about what you're doing in terms of the exact product or service that you're offering it to a clearly identifiable audience. That means you keep your marketing costs lower because you know exactly where your customers are. You know the magazines they're reading, the radio stations they're listening to, the influential bloggers they follow, who they're following on Instagram. So you keep your marketing costs low, but you hopefully keep that customer loyalty high because businesses can only get what they want from you. And referring to Startup Saturday, which, as I say, I run every month here, what we have at Startup Saturday is every month 40 people come, and from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. we have 5 hours of getting them started in a business. And the first 30 minutes is spent with everyone saying what their idea is. And so just as an easy way to show this, last month I would have someone who would say, I'm wanting to start an events planning business. And I would say, right, events for whom? What are you going to focus on? Events for everyone, for the corporate sector, for the wedding sector, for the birthday party sector. To which I would say, no, just focus on one of those. Because if, for instance, you only focus on the wedding sector, of course, what you then need to be on is you need to be on the Rock and Roll Bride blog. You need to be in Wedding Journal. You need to get to know the journalists that are covering the wedding industry. You will build your expertise very quickly as the wedding event planner, as opposed to spreading yourself too thinly across lots of different sectors. So I think know your niche is like a basic fundamental before going on and going for further growth. So let me kind of get into the points around growth. Selling to big retailers, I think, is a big opportunity for small business. And something that we've worked on with the business department for a while is a program called The Exchange. And this is where we match small businesses with buyers from big retailers. So 2 weeks ago, we had the Fashion Exchange, where we had buyers from House of Fraser, Topshop, Shop Direct, Jaeger. They came to talk about what they look for in small businesses. And the audience, of course, were small businesses that want to pitch to those big brands. Next month, we've got the Food Exchange, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Ocado. And the point that I'm trying to make in kind of naming all of those brands is in the decade that we've been doing this, we've never seen so much appetite from big companies to buy from small businesses. And I don't know if in the questions you may say to me, yes, but they're terrible at paying, which they are. So selling to big retailers, I think, is a big opportunity because the big ones want to buy from you. And we've done a lot of work with Sainsbury's on matching them up with food suppliers. I don't know if there's any food businesses here. And I say this in a way of kind of seeing how you can position yourselves. But when we talk to Sainsbury's and say, right, why are you looking to buy more from small companies? What the big companies love is, A, your products, because it brings variety and they know their customers are looking for variety at the moment. But what they also want to take from you is the authenticity of your story. So if you're Sainsbury's at the moment, you really need loads of great stories to be able to tell so that it draws people in store. And as a very quick case of this, a great business called Cloudy and Finn, started by two mums who came up with a lollipop company, which is Greek-style frozen yoghurt for lollipops for kids. And they just came up with this invention round the kitchen table. And we first found them when they were literally at the point of they'd just come up with the idea. We introduced them to Sainsbury's. Their first order as a startup was in 400 Sainsbury's stores, which is phenomenal. And the co-founder, Lucy Woodhouse, every time I say to her, how's it going? And it's great. Sainsbury's keep on expanding their orders. They're now in Waitrose, which is brilliant. And she said, you know, the reason why they love us is because we do come with this story, with this heritage. We're really PRable. We go into stores. We do sampling in stores. So it gives Sainsbury's that story that all of you small businesses have, but big companies don't have it so much anymore. So not only your products, but you've got your story, your authenticity that you've got, and your innovation that you can share with them. So selling to big retailers, I think, is a route to growth. In terms of big brands, there is a second opportunity at the moment, which I think is huge, and I'm boring everyone on this one point, which is selling to government. So government has set itself a target. Well, in fact, government met this target last Friday of buying 25% of all its products and services from small business by May 2015 was a target that was set by Lord Young, actually, and a gentleman called Francis Maud. Last Friday, they announced they've hit that 25%, but they want to keep buying more from small businesses. So they relaunched a website called Contracts Finder. And this is now a website that has got all the opportunities to sell to government, and they're making it a lot easier. Not to get too technical, they've abolished something called a PQQ, a pre-qualification questionnaire, which previously small businesses would look at these opportunities to sell to government. And actually, maybe I should just say this, if you think government only ever buy heavy-duty things, government buys loads of stuff: chairs, furniture, fashion, food, facilities management, creative graphic design services. They buy everything. And so they want to make it easier. So this Contracts Finder will now mean that you don't have to fill out these cumbersome questionnaires, and you can also partner up with other small businesses if you want to get together and jointly kind of pitch to local authorities or central government. So I do think it's worth every small business owner at the moment having a look at that as an opportunity for growth. So selling to big brands is one. Going global is another thing that we are very passionate about, Enterprise Nation, just because all around the world you see these markets opening up, and a particular favourite for me at the moment is China. I was with a company this morning called Alibaba.com, which you probably know is China's largest trading website, and just a couple of stats on China, which I think are phenomenal. And apologies, because I kind of don't know the businesses in the audience, I don't quite know what you do in terms of your sectors, but every day in China, there are 55,000 babies born, which I just think is phenomenal. And so every day, there are friends, family, etc., looking for beautiful gifts to buy these 55,000 babies. So if anyone is in children's wear or anything to do with babies, you absolutely have to look at China. The Chinese love our cosmetics. They love our fashion. They're starting to like our food. Afternoon tea is becoming a very big thing in China. And so China plus other markets that are opening up, I think, present a phenomenal opportunity for small businesses. And in terms of just kind of a few quick steps, again, one of our books was called Go Global, How to Take Your Business to the World, is clearly just to do your research on the markets as much as you would do in the UK. So who is currently operating in the markets where you want to go? What are the cultural issues? You know, would it help you if you had local translation of your website, etc.? How would you physically get goods if you are kind of shipping things over there? But actually, it's interesting, when I wrote the Go Global book, we interviewed about 25 exporters, and I ended up calling them the accidental exporters, which is a term actually that's used quite a lot, because interestingly, they had got orders coming in from overseas. Maybe they were selling on Etsy.com. One of them, who I love, a business called Johnny's Sister, she makes fantastic love letter cushions. And her story was she just sent some love letter cushions to the editor of Country Living magazine. The editor had put them in the Country Living Emporium page. Apparently there's a big global readership of Country Living, and so all of a sudden, Johnny's sister was starting to get orders in from overseas. She, to me, was the ultimate accidental exporter. The export orders had started to come in, and she just dealt with it. She then found out what you needed to do in terms of export documentation. Another girl, actually, who was the complete inspiration for the Go Global book, a girl I met in Glasgow called Emma Henderson, who runs a company called Show Pony. She makes beautiful textile materials, and she was selling on Etsy.com, and for any Etsy sellers, you'll know that it's pretty rare now to get UK sales on Etsy. You get so many orders coming in from overseas. And she was a very young entrepreneur. She was picking up all these international orders. And I said, how did you learn all the stuff around the forms you've got to fill in, you know, the taxes you've got to pay, etc.? And I will never forget her. She just said, I learned it from the UPS man. He used to come and pick up the orders, and he used to just give me all the help. I mean, great advert for UPS, actually. In fact, they should use that a lot more. But she picked up everything she needed to know from the UPS man. So I probably don't need to tell a room full of female entrepreneurs that when you get orders in, you just make the most of that opportunity, and then you learn quick about how to deal with it. So at this stage, and kind of with the time running out, I just wanted to flag it as I say, markets opening up. And just a final thing to say in terms of those markets is what a lot of people are looking for at the moment is the made in Britain product. And we did an event a couple of weeks ago called Make in Britain, Sell Overseas. And stories like a great girl called Janan Leo, who runs a company called Coco Rose London, which they make beautiful ballet pumps. And we've followed her, actually, throughout her journey. But she was producing in Asia and then selling all over the world. But she's now just brought production back to Northampton, which is lovely because she's bringing lots of shoemaking skills back with her. So they're doing a line in Northampton, which they call their heritage line. And what she's doing is she's increasing the price tag on the Made in Britain product. But what she's finding is there is huge international appetite to pay more for Made in Britain products. And on that, there's a couple of great websites if you're in, or if you're looking for basic production here. One called Make It British, run by a fabulous girl called Kate Hills. And there's another company called Outelier, which is where if you're in the fashion sector, you can find production companies from Britain, but also elsewhere. So going global is just one thing to consider. Productize, crikey, I could talk about this for like 6 hours. This is the concept of more service-based businesses. And we had an event a couple of nights ago about how to turn a blog into a business. And we had someone who was a dating company, somebody who was a wedding blogger, and they were talking about Instagram and how you can put amazing pictures of everything online and etc. And a lady, pretty much in the front row, she said, how does this relate to the service business? I'm in HR management, so like, how do I make that look attractive? To which I said, you know, you make lots of people happy, so have lots of people of your... She said, not when I'm a redundancy advisor. So speechless for a moment there. So this is kind of very relevant for service-based businesses, and this is for anyone in the audience who does do HR services, graphic design, lawyer, IT, and thinks, how on earth am I going to scale my business when so much of it is based on me? And to that point, this kind of concept of productizing what you do in its most simple form is to box up what you do and sell it multiple times. And if I mention, maybe kind of give a product example, and then another one is an entrepreneur who I met who's making dresses for girls. So I appreciate this is product-based again. High-end dresses, each one would sell like 300 quid, but she was making them all. And so her essential shortage was, I can only make as many as my time allows. And of course, she could have outsourced and got other people to help with production, which she is now doing, but she also then made a DIY kit. So what she put in that kit was the basic core material components with a little instruction in terms of this is how you can make your own. And the genius, I think, of that is when you sell, well, first of all, you can sell a lot more of them because it takes hardly any time to put a kit together, so you can sell more. But you also then give, in her case, you give the mum, the child, the experience of making something together. They then ultimately tweet, blog, Instagram, Pinterest the final product. So your customers not only buy from you, but they also become your marketing agents. So it's kind of a great way you can take a product business and box it up, but the same thing for services. And if you are, you know, providing anything in business service, well, lawyers, there's a great girl called Joanna Tall who runs a business called Off to See My Lawyer. And again, she charges by the hour, and that's all she knows from an industry. She wants to scale and sell more to small businesses. So she is now doing ebooks. She's doing webinars. There's a great tool called GoToWebinar that we use. We've just done a webinar today on helping you with IP. So there's fantastic technology tools that you can now use where you share your expertise, do video tutorials, either get people to pay or make it freely available of charge. You produce that content once, but you sell it multiple times. Great websites where you can write your own ebooks now, one called lulu.com, another one called blurb.com. As I say, GoToWebinar is perfect. They also produce something called GoToTraining. So if you wanted to start to deliver training and get people to pay, you don't even have to leave the home office. People can just come and watch you deliver what expertise you're delivering. So the concept, as I say, is kind of taking your knowledge, boxing it up, whether that be boxing it into a book, boxing it into a webinar, boxing it into a DIY tutorial, and selling that multiple times. And the interesting thing, and for this new book we've got coming out, which is all about growing on a budget, when you add up the incremental income streams that come from each of these things, it's not huge amounts. So say you've got an ebook selling for £1.99, say you've got GoToWebinar where you charge people £1.50 to come on, and you may think, oh, that's crazy, that's not going to make me much money. But of course, then if you're putting it out on platforms, well, certainly with ebooks like Amazon, like Apple, like Kobo, it reaches a bigger audience, which hopefully then brings more people back to you. But also, those small amounts of sales eventually add up. So you can actually make decent income, as I say, by producing it once and selling multiple times. So that, I think, is just an interesting concept around how to grow. Penultimate piece, focus on what you do best and outsource the rest. Again, something else I could talk for hours about, but that clock really is ticking. And this is all about trying to stay true to the thing in the business that you most enjoy, and therefore the thing that probably contributes the most to the business. And again, real brief example of this. We used to do a lot with Country Living magazine, and there was a great girl called Gemma Faithful who runs a business called Faithful's Cakes, and she won me as a mentor. I'm not quite sure she ever thought that was a cool thing at all. But I spoke to her when she was first starting her business and said, right, you know, what are you doing? How's it going? Anyway, I then caught up with her 6 months later. And we were on the phone and I said, right, tell me about your average day. And she was still living at home with her parents, so she said, I get up, and they'd created like a dedicated shed, essentially, where she was doing the baking. So she said, I get up, I go out to the bakehouse, I bake the cakes, I wrap up the cakes, I go down to the post office, I post the cakes, come back, do some social media, raise the invoices, make sure the website's up to date, take some photos. Oh, and then I really try and do that sales job that I want to do, which is selling to the local hotel. So we kind of go through this day where she's doing everything as you do in a business at the start, as you should do in a business at the start. And I said, right, if you got someone in to come and make the cakes, because you've now got this proven recipe how to do it, if you outsource to a fulfillment company, you come in and pick up the cakes and make sure they get posted off in your beautiful packaging, how many hours would this save you in the day? So we calculate that essentially over a week, she could recoup 25 hours of her life. What she loves doing in the business is making sales. She really wants to get into a hotel. She wants to do more farmers markets. She likes the sales. Because, of course, what she was saying to me is, how am I going to pay to get somebody to come in and make them? How am I going to pay to outsource to fulfillment? If you take 25 hours and put that fully into sales, which is what she most likes to do, that equals so much extra revenue, which essentially means she can then pay to use outsourced partners. So the concept of this is just as soon as you practically can within a budget, outsource the bits of the business that you shouldn't be doing, the accounting, the fulfillment, the social media if that's not your style, and outsource it to people who are brilliant and experts at doing those respective things. And that also helps you as a business because you just surround yourself with this support network of everyone is kind of working to their 100% momentum. So it's just something that I always think is useful to bear in mind. And very finally, this point, no one can grow without support around them. So just briefly to mention a couple of government programmes actually of support is, has anyone heard of growth vouchers? Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Gavin Dollin from Biz would be so happy about that. You don't even know who that man is, but he would be so happy. OK, so if you know about growth vouchers, you possibly know that, sadly, they're coming to an end on the 31st of March. It was always meant to be a 15-month programme. One of our lobbying points at the moment is We have called on the big six energy companies who have got £200 million sitting in closed business accounts from small business, and we've called on them to say, could a percentage of that money go into carrying on this kind of programme where small businesses can access advice. So we are hoping to get some kind of result on that. But in the meantime, you've got until the 31st of March to apply for a growth voucher, and it seems that most people know what it is, but if you don't, it means you can access up to £2,000 in match spend to get advice to help your business. And Enterprise Nation's involvement in this is we host the marketplace where you can find an advisor with whom to spend your growth voucher. And I have to say, we've got 11,000 advisors on the marketplace. They love the programme, but more importantly, the small businesses who've had a voucher have grown on average or increased their turnover on average by at least 10 grand from having a voucher. So it has been shown to be really successful for the small businesses that have taken that advice and taken the voucher. So that's one thing to bear in mind. The government run another programme called Growth Accelerator, which you may have heard of. I don't know if that was mentioned this morning. So there's kind of lots of support. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Is Shoma in the room? Am I allowed to maybe mention what might be coming? So there's just, there may be something for female entrepreneurs in terms of assessing skills and abilities around growing a business, which hopefully might be launched in the next couple of weeks. So I think if Shoma's got everybody's details, hopefully we'll be in contact as and when that goes live. But the point around this is, and I should have said this at the beginning, that I genuinely think there's never been a better time to grow a business in this country. And one of the reasons being is because there is so much support available from government, from big companies actually who are opening up accelerators, opening up their supply chains, but also from each other. And maybe that's kind of a final point to leave on, is going back to when I did start my first business in 2000, so crikey, 15 years ago. Starting a business was quite a solitary experience. You kind of came up with the idea, you got on with it, you didn't really speak to any other business owners. There were no entrepreneur networking events. It was kind of quite a solitary thing. Fast forward to today's sharing economy and collaboration economy, events like this, and it's fantastic that so many small business owners, yes, they're running their own business, but are also kind of willing to give back and share ideas and help others either kind of along the same journey or at least help others kind of come up and follow the same path as them. So I hope that's been a little bit useful in terms of, as I say, routes to growth we're seeing, selling to big retailers, definitely selling to government, going global, focusing on what you do best and outsource the rest, and productising as well. So hopefully that gives a little bit of food for thought. And thank you so much for having me.